Montana Territory, 1878. The wind carried dust across the harsh plains surrounding Hollow Creek, a settlement that had grown from a handful of desperate prospectors to a proper frontier town with a bank, general store, and 2 saloons. In this unforgiving land, Yates Armstrong believed only the tough survived and the soft-hearted perished. At 25, he'd already buried more friends than most men twice his age. The frontier breaks everyone eventually, Yates muttered to his horse as they approached town, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the rutted main street. His lean frame carried the strength of a man who'd spent years in the saddle, and despite the trail dust coating his clothes, his clean-shaven face and attentive hazel eyes marked him as someone who took pride in his appearance even after weeks driving cattle. The Broken Spur Ranch had been his home for 3 years now, working as foreman for Old Man Fletcher. The pay was fair, the work honest, and most importantly, it required little emotional investment. Yates had learned early that attachment was a luxury the West didn't permit. His parents' graves outside Denver stood as testament to that harsh truth. As he dismounted outside the general store, his boots raising small clouds of dust, Yates nodded to several townspeople. They respected him for his skill with horses and his fair dealings, but few could claim to know him. That was exactly how he preferred it. "Armstrong, good to see you made it back," called Josiah Miller, the store owner. "Fletcher sent word you'd be picking up supplies." Yates handed over his list. "Need it loaded by tomorrow morning." Course. You staying in town tonight? The Andersons are having their spring social. Mighty you good to mingle with folks not wearing spurs for a change." Yates shook his head. "Got no business at socials." Miller's eyes crinkled. "Shame. Those Anderson girls are quite the talk of the territory. Especially Belinda, prettiest thing this side of the Mississippi, they say." "Don't much care for pretty packages with nothing inside," Yates replied, thinking of the society girls he'd encountered, all lace and no substance, unprepared for frontier realities. Well, her sister Beatrice might be more your speed then. Plain as a fence post, but smart as a whip. Runs the schoolhouse now. Yates merely grunted. He had no intention of meeting either Anderson sister. In his experience, women wanted security and civilization, 2 things a cowboy couldn't provide. Better to keep his distance than to invite inevitable disappointment. As he stepped back onto the boardwalk, the sound of splintering wood and a woman's startled cry drew his attention. Across the street, a wagon had broken an axle, spilling books and papers into the mud. A young woman in a simple blue dress was scrambling to rescue the waterlogged volumes, her chestnut hair falling from its pins as she worked. Without thinking, Yates crossed the street. "Ma'am, let me help you with that." When she looked up, he was struck not by extraordinary beauty, but by the intelligence and determination in her warm brown eyes. Her face was pleasant rather than striking, with a small spray of freckles across her nose and a mouth that seemed accustomed to smiling. "Thank you, sir. These books are for my students." Her voice carried no Eastern affectation, just straightforward gratitude. Together they salvaged what they could. Yates found himself impressed by her practical approach, the way she prioritized the most valuable texts rather than fussing over her mud-stained dress. "You must be Miss Anderson, the teacher," he ventured. She smiled, revealing a slight gap between her front teeth. "Beatrice Anderson, yes. Though most just call me B." She tilted her head. "And you are?" "Yates Armstrong, foreman at Broken Spur." Her eyes lit with recognition. "Mr. Fletcher speaks highly of you. Says you've got the best horse sense in 3 territories." Before Yates could respond, a melodic voice called from down the street. "B. Oh, B, what happened?" A stunning young woman approached, her golden hair perfectly arranged beneath a fashionable bonnet, her rose-colored dress untouched by the dust that seemed to coat everything else in town. Even from a distance, Yates could see why Belinda Anderson had earned her reputation. Her delicate features were arranged in perfect symmetry, her complexion unblemished, her figure the ideal of feminine grace. "Just a broken axle, Belle," Beatrice explained, standing. At 22, she was 2 years younger than her sister, but carried herself with the confidence of someone who had found her purpose. Belinda's gaze swept over the scene, lingering on Yates. Her perfect lips curved into a practiced smile. "How fortunate you found assistance, sister. And from such a capable gentleman." There was something calculated in her appraisal that made Yates bristle internally. He'd seen that look before. Women sizing up a man's potential as a provider rather than seeing the person beneath. Mr. Armstrong was kind enough to help rescue the school books, Beatrice said, seeming oblivious to her sister's flirtation. Mr. Armstrong, this is my sister, Belinda. He tipped his hat politely. Miss Anderson. Belinda extended her gloved hand with deliberate grace. How wonderful to meet you, Mr. Armstrong. Will you be attending our gathering this evening? Father has invited the whole town. Afraid not, ma'am. Got ranch business. What a shame, Belinda pouted prettily. We so rarely get to meet new gentlemen of quality. Beatrice rolled her eyes behind her sister's back, a quick, unguarded reaction that caught Yates by surprise. For a moment, their eyes met in shared amusement, and something unexpected flickered between them, recognition, perhaps, of a kindred spirit who saw through pretense. Belle, we should arrange for a new wagon, Beatrice said, breaking the moment. Mr. Armstrong has his own affairs to tend to. As the sisters departed, Yates found himself watching Beatrice's retreating figure longer than necessary. There was something refreshing about her lack of artifice, so at odds with his expectations of the schoolteacher sisters he'd heard about. That evening, against his better judgment, Yates found himself outside the Anderson home. The sprawling white house stood as testament to Thomas Anderson's success in bringing the railroad through Hollow Creek. Lights spilled from every window, and the sounds of a fiddle drifted into the night air. Just dropping off Miller's delivery, Yates told himself as he tied his horse. But the excuse rang hollow even to his own ears. Inside, the party was in full swing. Belinda Anderson moved through the crowd like royalty, her golden beauty drawing admiring glances from every eligible bachelor in the county. In contrast, Beatrice stood by the refreshment table, deep in conversation with the town doctor and his wife. Mr. Armstrong. Thomas Anderson boomed, approaching with a tumbler of whiskey. Didn't expect to see you here. Not much for socials, Fletcher tells me. Yates accepted the offered drink. Thought I'd make an exception, sir. The older man followed his gaze to Beatrice. Ah, you've met my daughters then. Briefly, Miss Beatrice had some trouble with her wagon today. Anderson nodded, his expression softening. That girl and her books. Smartest person in the territory, might be. Turned down 3 marriage proposals from back east to come teach our frontier children. This surprised Yates. She had suitors in the east? Of course she did. Both my girls were raised with every advantage. Belle's beauty opens doors, but BEA's mind. That's something special. He sighed. Not that the local boys see it. All mooning over Belle, while Bea keeps that schoolhouse running single-handed. As the evening progressed, Yates observed the sisters with growing interest. Belinda captivated her audience with charm and practiced grace, while Beatrice engaged fewer people but inspired genuine laughter and animated discussion. One sister performed, the other connected. When the dancing began, Belinda was immediately surrounded by eager partners. Beatrice remained seated, seemingly content to watch until a young boy approached her. Miss Anderson, would you show me that star again? The one you pointed out yesterday. Beatrice smiled warmly. Of course, Tommy. She rose, taking the boy's hand and slipping outside. Curious, Yates followed at a distance. On the wide porch, Beatrice lifted the boy to see above the railing, pointing to the night sky. There, see that bright one? That's Polaris, the North Star. Sailors and travelers have used it to find their way home for thousands of years. Even cowboys. Tommy asked. Especially cowboys, she answered, her voice carrying clearly in the night air. When you're lost on the range with no landmarks, the stars become your map. That's right, Yates found himself saying as he stepped from the shadows. Many a night I've navigated by those same stars. Beatrice turned, surprise and something warmer flickering across her features. Mr. Armstrong, I didn't realize you were a stargazer. When you spend nights on the open range, the sky becomes your closest companion. Tommy looked between them. Mr. Armstrong, did you really drive 500 cattle all the way from Texas? Yates chuckled. Not alone, but yes. Tommy, Beatrice said gently, why don't you go tell your mother about the North Star? I'm sure she'd be impressed by your knowledge. After the boy scampered inside, an unexpected silence fell between them. It wasn't uncomfortable. Rather, it felt like the quiet understanding of two people who preferred observation to constant chatter. I didn't expect to see you here, Beatrice finally said, her gaze direct but not challenging. Neither did I, he admitted. She smiled, that slight gap in her teeth giving her expression an endearing quality that perfect beauty could never achieve. Well, I'm glad you came. Though I suspect half the young ladies inside are disappointed you haven't asked them to dance. I don't dance much. Neither do I. Too busy keeping my students from stepping on my feet during lessons. The admission startled a laugh from him. You teach dancing? I teach everything. Reading, writing, arithmetic, natural sciences, and yes, basic dancing. A frontier education must be practical above all. Her eyes sparkled with conviction. These children will build this territory's future. They deserve every skill we can give them. Her passion was unlike anything Yates had encountered in his years of drifting. Most people in the West were focused solely on survival. Few looked beyond immediate needs to envision a future worth building. That's admirable, he said simply. Beatrice studied him. And what about you, Mr. Armstrong? What future are you building at Broken Spur? The question pierced his carefully maintained defenses. Just earning my keep. I don't believe that's all, she said softly. Fletcher says you've transformed that ranch. That's not the work of a man just passing through. Before he could respond, the door swung open, and Belinda appeared, breathless and radiant. "B, there you are? Father is asking for—" "Oh." Her expression brightened upon seeing Yates. "Mr. Armstrong, how fortunate. I was just telling Father we should show you the orchard we've planted. Perhaps tomorrow afternoon." Beatrice's face remained neutral, but Yates caught the slight stiffening of her shoulders. "Actually, Miss Belinda, I need to head back to Broken Spur at first light," he replied. "But I appreciate the invitation." Disappointment flashed across Belinda's perfect features before she recovered. "Another time, then." She glanced between them. "I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation. We were discussing stars," Beatrice explained. "Stars? How rustic." Belinda smiled tightly. "Father needs you inside, B. Something about Mrs. Patterson's concerns for next term's curriculum." After Beatrice excused herself, Belinda moved closer to Yates, the subtle scent of expensive perfume enveloping him. "My sister has always been fascinated by the strangest things. Books, stars, children's education, not the usual interests of a properly raised young lady. I find her interests refreshing," Yates said mildly. Something calculated entered Belinda's gaze. "Indeed? Well, B has always been different. Clever, certainly, but lacking the traditional accomplishments that make a woman suitable for marriage. Not like me. I've been trained in household management, entertaining, and all the social graces a successful man's wife should possess." Her direct self-promotion made Yates uncomfortable. "Excuse me, Miss Anderson. I should bid your father good night." As he departed, he caught sight of Beatrice through the window, animatedly discussing something with several town elders. Her plain blue dress couldn't compete with her sister's finery, yet her face was alive with intelligence and conviction that outshone any artificial beauty. For the first time in years, Yates found himself curious about another person's story, a dangerous sentiment for a man who'd sworn never to form attachments. 2 weeks later, a spring thunderstorm unleashed its fury on Hollow Creek. Yates had ridden into town for supplies when the deluge began, forcing him to seek shelter in the general store. "Roads will be washed out by nightfall," Miller predicted, peering through rain-streaked windows. "Creek's already rising. Might want to secure a room at the hotel." Yates nodded, calculating how this would affect the cattle. As he turned to leave, the door burst open, admitting a drenched Beatrice Anderson. "Miss Anderson." Yates stepped forward, concerned by her bedraggled state. "Are you all right?" "Mr. Armstrong," she acknowledged, water dripping from her sodden cloak. "I'm fine, but I need help. The school's roof is leaking badly, and I've got boxes of new primers that'll be ruined." Without hesitation, Yates grabbed his hat. "Show me." Together they battled through the downpour to the small schoolhouse at the edge of town. Inside, water streamed through the ceiling in 3 places, puddles already forming on the plank floor. "The books are in that cabinet," Beatrice directed, already moving furniture away from the worst leaks. For the next hour, they worked together salvaging materials and positioning buckets. When the immediate crisis was contained, Yates climbed into the rafters to examine the damage. "Shingles are worn through in spots," he called down. "I can patch it temporarily, but you'll need proper repairs when the weather clears." Beatrice handed up tools and materials, proving herself as capable and practical as he'd suspected. Unlike most women of his acquaintance, she didn't shrink from the dirty work or fret about her appearance. "How did you come to teaching out here?" Yates asked as they worked. "Your father mentioned you had opportunities back east." Beatrice sat on a student desk, wringing water from her hair. At 22, with her guard down, she looked younger yet somehow more substantial than her beautiful sister. "I attended a women's college in Boston," she explained. "Father insisted both Belle and I receive proper education, though she chose finishing school instead. When I graduated, I had offers to teach at private academies, even a proposal from the son of father's business partner. But you came west instead." Her eyes met his, unflinching. "I wanted purpose, not security. These children have so little access to knowledge that others take for granted. How could I waste my education on students who already have every advantage?" Yates descended the ladder, wiping his hands on a rag. "Most women would choose comfort over purpose." "I'm not most women, Mr. Armstrong," she said simply. "Just as I suspect you're not most cowboys." The observation struck uncomfortably close to truths Yates rarely acknowledged. "What makes you say that?" "You care about things beyond yourself. I've seen how you treat your horse, how you interact with the town children. There's a gentleness there that belies your tough exterior." Her perception was unnerving. "You read too much into simple decency, Miss Anderson." "Perhaps." She smiled slightly. "Or perhaps I recognize a kindred spirit when I see one." The rain continued its assault, creating a strangely intimate atmosphere within the schoolhouse. Isolated from the world, they found themselves sharing stories. Yates of cattle drives and frontier justice, Beatrice of her students' achievements and her vision for the school's future. "I want to add a proper library," she explained, eyes bright with passion. "Most of these children have never seen books beyond the Bible and a primer. How can they dream beyond this valley if they don't know what exists in the wider world?" "Dreams can be dangerous things out here," Yates cautioned, thinking of countless broken souls he'd encountered across the territories. "More dangerous than ignorance?" she challenged. "Knowledge is like your North Star, Mr. Armstrong. It guides people home even when all other landmarks disappear." As darkness fell and the storm showed no signs of abating, Yates realized they were effectively stranded. Propriety demanded he leave, yet the flooding made travel to the hotel treacherous. "You should stay at our house tonight," Beatrice suggested, reading his concern. "It's closer than the hotel, and Father would insist." The thought of the Anderson mansion and inevitably encountering Belinda made Yates hesitate. "I wouldn't want to impose." "Nonsense. Father values nothing more than hospitality. Besides," she added with unexpected humor, "you've saved the future of frontier education today. The least we can offer is a dry bed." The Anderson home was ablaze with lamplight when they arrived, soaked and muddy. Thomas Anderson welcomed them heartily, ordering hot water and dry clothes without question. "Knew you were a good sort, Armstrong," he declared, pouring whiskey for them both. "Taking care of my bee like that." "It was the other way around, sir," Yates admitted. "Your daughter was saving her school. I just provided the labor." Anderson chuckled. "That sounds like B. Got more determination than most men I know." Dinner was an unexpected trial. Belinda, resplendent despite the dreary weather, directed most of her attention to Yates. Her flirtation was skillful but increasingly transparent. "Mr. Armstrong," she cooed over dessert, "you simply must tell us about your adventures in Texas. I find frontier stories so thrilling when told by a genuine cowboy." Beatrice, now dressed in a simple house dress with her damp hair braided plainly, caught Yates's eye with a barely perceptible smile that conveyed understanding of her sister's tactics. "Belle collects stories like some women collect hatpins," Beatrice observed mildly. "Especially those featuring eligible bachelors." Belinda's cheeks colored. "Don't be ridiculous, B. I'm merely being sociable with our guest." "Of course," Beatrice replied, her tone so innocent that only Yates seemed to catch the undercurrent of amusement. Later, as the household retired, Yates found himself in the study with Thomas Anderson, examining a map of the surrounding territory. "Planning to stay in these parts long-term, Armstrong?" the older man inquired, studying him over spectacles. Yates considered the question more seriously than he normally would have. "Haven't decided, sir." Fletcher says you've saved him more money than his previous 3 foremen combined. Man like you could have his own spread in a few years if you're smart about it." The suggestion stirred something Yates had long suppressed, a desire for roots, for something of his own. Perhaps. Anderson refilled their glasses. "Curious thing about my daughters," he said, changing subjects abruptly. "Everyone assumes Belle will marry first, being the beauty. Had suitors lining up since she was 16. But it's Bea who understands what builds a real life out here. Your younger daughter is exceptional," Yates agreed carefully. "That she is. Smart as a whip, practical as the day is long, and sees right through nonsense." Anderson fixed him with a penetrating gaze. Not many men appreciate those qualities in a woman, especially when they're blinded by a pretty face. Yates recognized the test in the older man's words. "Beauty fades, sir. Character endures." Anderson smiled, satisfied. "Precisely." The next morning, skies cleared to reveal considerable damage throughout town. Roads were washed out, fences down, and several buildings had lost portions of their roofs. Yates found himself volunteering to help with repairs to the schoolhouse, extending his stay in town by several days. Each evening, he returned to the Anderson home for dinner at Thomas's insistence. Belinda's pursuit became increasingly obvious, while Beatrice remained friendly but reserved. Yet Yates found his attention repeatedly drawn to the younger sister's thoughtful observations and quiet competence. On the third day, as they completed repairs to the schoolhouse roof, Beatrice handed Yates a canteen of water. "You didn't have to stay this long," she said, watching him drink. "The Fletcher Ranch must need attention after the storm. My men can handle it." The admission surprised even himself. Never before had he delegated responsibility so readily. "Still, it's generous of you to help." Her directness was refreshing after her sister's calculated charm. "I admire what you're building here," he said honestly. "Not just a school, but a future." A genuine smile lit her face. "Most men don't understand that. They see teaching as something to do until marriage, not a calling." "Is that why you've declined those proposals your father mentioned?" Her eyebrows rose. "He told you about those? He's proud of you." Beatrice looked away, a hint of color touching her cheeks. "The men who courted me in Boston wanted a proper society wife. Someone to host dinner parties and raise children who would attend the right schools. They spoke of my intelligence as an interesting novelty, not a force to be respected." The vulnerability in her admission touched something in Yates. "And what would you want in a husband, if not social standing?" She met his gaze steadily. "A partner. Someone who sees my mind as an asset, not a curiosity. Someone who builds alongside me rather than expecting me to decorate his existing structure." The simplicity and honesty of her answer resonated deeply. For the first time, Yates could envision a shared life that didn't require sacrificing independence or purpose. That evening, Belinda cornered him on the veranda after dinner. In the soft lamplight, her beauty was undeniable. Golden hair perfectly arranged, blue eyes wide and inviting, her lavender dress emphasizing her delicate figure. "Mr. Armstrong," she began, her voice deliberately intimate. "I feel we've developed a special understanding these past days." Yates maintained a polite distance. "You've been very hospitable, Miss Anderson." She moved closer. "Please, call me Belle. All my special friends do." Her hand came to rest lightly on his arm. "I've been thinking about how lonely it must be, working that big ranch with no feminine comforts." "Ranch life suits me," he replied neutrally. "Perhaps it hasn't been the right kind of feminine influence," she suggested, her meaning unmistakable. "A man of your position needs a wife who understands society, who can help you advance. The railroad has opened opportunities for men with ambition." Her words confirmed everything Yates had suspected. Belinda saw him as a promising investment, not a person. Before he could respond, a noise from the doorway drew their attention. Beatrice stood there, a book in hand, her expression carefully composed. "Excuse me. I didn't mean to interrupt." "Not at all," Yates said, stepping away from Belinda with poorly concealed relief. "Your sister was just sharing her views on advancement through the railroad." Something like understanding flickered in Beatrice's eyes. Belle has always had a keen interest in strategic alliances." Belinda's smile tightened. "Someone in this family needs to think practically about connections. We can't all hide in schoolhouses with children and books." "No, indeed," Beatrice agreed mildly. "Some must take the harder path of tea parties and new dresses." The sisters' tension was palpable, Yet Yates found himself impressed by Beatrice's composed defense rather than Belinda's practiced tactics. "If you'll both excuse me," he said, "I should check on my horse before turning in." In the stable, brushing down his gelding, Yates confronted the unexpected feelings that had developed over these past days. Beatrice Anderson challenged everything he believed about life on the frontier. Her determination to build something meaningful, her refusal to compromise her purpose for security, resonated with desires he'd long suppressed. The sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Beatrice entered the stable, a lantern in hand, her expression uncertain. "I came to apologize for that awkward scene," she said. "No apology needed." She sighed, setting the lantern on a shelf. "Belle isn't wrong, you know, about practical considerations. She's just more direct about her ambitions." Yates studied her in the warm light. Without artifice or pretension, Beatrice possessed a beauty entirely her own, genuine, intelligent, alive with purpose. "And what are your ambitions, Beatrice?" The use of her first name shifted something between them. Her eyes met his, unguarded. "To build something meaningful. To help shape this territory into a place where knowledge is valued alongside strength. To create rather than merely survive." The echo of his own unspoken desires was startling. "Those sound like worthy ambitions. Not particularly feminine ones, according to most." "I'm not most people." She smiled then, that slightly crooked smile that revealed the gap in her teeth. "No, Mr. Armstrong, you certainly are not." The next day, as Yates prepared to return to Broken Spur, Thomas Anderson approached him with an unexpected proposition. "School board's approved funding for that library Bea keeps talking about," he explained. "Need someone to oversee construction. Pays fair wage. Work shouldn't take more than a couple months. Thought you might be interested." Yates frowned. "I'm not a carpenter, Mr. Anderson." "No, but you know quality work when you see it, and the men respect you. Fletcher says he can spare you now that calving season's passed." The offer was transparent in its intent, a reason for Yates to remain in Hollow Creek, close to the Anderson family, closer to Beatrice. "I'll consider it," Yates replied, suddenly unwilling to return to the isolation of ranch life. As he mounted his horse, Beatrice appeared, carrying a small package. "A book," she explained, handing it up to him. "Astronomy, since you seem interested in stars." Their fingers brushed in the exchange, a brief contact that sent unexpected warmth through him. "Thank you. I'll return it soon." "Keep it," she said. "Consider it payment for saving the schoolhouse." Behind her, Yates could see Belinda watching from the porch, her beautiful face set in lines of calculation and growing resentment. Over the next month, Yates found himself riding into town with increasing frequency. He accepted the library construction oversight, dividing his time between Broken Spur and Hollow Creek. Each visit included time with Beatrice, their conversations ranging from books to cattle breeding to frontier politics. Word spread through town about Yates Armstrong's apparent courtship of one of the Anderson sisters, though opinions differed on which one. Belinda continued her pursuit with increasing determination, arranging chance meetings and extending invitations to every social event. But it was Beatrice's company Yates sought, finding in her a kindred spirit who understood his reserved nature yet challenged his isolation. Together they visited homesteaders to recruit students, rode to neighboring settlements for supplies, and spent evenings discussing books beneath the stars. "People are talking," Beatrice mentioned one evening as they walked back from inspecting the library construction. "About your intentions." Yates glanced sideways at her. "Does that concern you?" "It concerns Belle. She's quite convinced you're working up the courage to court her." The absurdity of this made him chuckle. "Your sister sees what she wants to see. She's not used to being overlooked," Beatrice said carefully. "Especially not in favor of her plain, bookish sister." Yates stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "Is that how you see yourself? Plain and bookish?" In the fading light, her expression was vulnerable. "It's how everyone sees me, in comparison to Belle." "Not everyone," he said quietly. Before he could elaborate, riders approached from the direction of the ranch. Fletcher's youngest hand, barely 18, reined in breathlessly. "Mr. Armstrong." Raiders hit the north pasture, rustled near 30 head and shot Pete when he tried to stop them. The news shattered their moment. "How bad is Pete hurt?" "Doc says he'll live, but the Raiders left a note." Said they'd be back for more unless you personally deliver $500 to Red Canyon by tomorrow noon. Yates's face hardened. Blackmail and rustling. They're testing us. Fletcher says not to pay, the young cowhand added. Says you'll know what to do instead. Beatrice gripped Yates's arm. You can't go alone. It's obviously a trap. He covered her hand with his. I don't intend to, but I need to get back to the ranch. Her eyes searched his. Be careful, please. The unexpected tenderness in her voice stirred something profound in him. For the first time in years, someone genuinely cared about his safe return. I will, he promised. Back at Broken Spur, Yates organized the remaining hands. They're counting on us being undermanned with calving season just finished, he explained. And they want me specifically, which means this is personal. Fletcher, gray-haired but still sharp, nodded grimly. Probably Jackson's gang. Still sore about you testifying against his brother last fall. Yates had suspected as much. The hanging of Will Jackson for murder had been justified, but his older brother Elias had sworn revenge. We'll set up an ambush of our own. I'll appear to be alone, but I want riflemen positioned above the canyon. The plan was solid, but as dawn approached, an unexpected complication arrived. Thomas Anderson rode into the ranch yard, accompanied by his younger daughter. Beatrice, Yates exclaimed, meeting them at the house. What are you doing here? Thomas dismounted stiffly, told her to stay home, but she's as stubborn as her mother was. Beatrice approached, determination written across her features. Jackson's gang isn't just after cattle. The stagecoach was robbed last week, and 2 homesteads burned. This is bigger than a simple grudge. Her information changed the calculation. How do you know this? Letters from the county seat. The marshal there believes Jackson is building a small army, targeting anyone connected to his brother's trial. Fletcher joined them, his weathered face grim. That means the Andersons could be targets too. Thomas here was on the jury. The realization hit Yates like a physical blow. His attempt to maintain emotional distance had failed completely. Now people he cared about were in danger because of their connection to him. We need to change the plan, he decided. Mr. Anderson, I want you and Beatrice to stay here, protected. I'll still meet them as arranged, but we'll have men watching your home and the school as well. Beatrice shook her head. Jackson won't expect a woman. I could ride with your men, be another set of eyes. Absolutely not. Both men responded simultaneously. I can shoot, she insisted. Father taught both Belle and me. I'm actually the better marksman. Yates recognized the determination in her eyes. This isn't a classroom, Beatrice. These men are killers. And they threaten someone I care about, she replied, her gaze unwavering. Do you think I could sit safely at home wondering if you were dead or alive? Her declaration stunned him into silence. Thomas cleared his throat awkwardly. She's as good a shot as she claims, Armstrong. Got her mother's steady hand. Against his better judgment, Yates agreed to let her join the lookouts positioned well away from the expected confrontation, paired with his most experienced hand for protection. As the confrontation at Red Canyon unfolded, Jackson's ambush went exactly as Yates had predicted, except for one critical detail. A second group of raiders had circled behind, threatening to trap Yates's men between 2 forces. It was Beatrice who spotted them first, her position on the eastern ridge giving her clear sight of the approaching riders. Instead of merely raising the alarm, she took careful aim with her rifle and fired, unseating the lead rider. The unexpected resistance from that direction threw the raiders into confusion, giving Yates's men the opportunity to gain the upper hand. When the dust settled, Elias Jackson and 2 of his men were dead, 3 more captured for the territorial marshal, and the remainder scattered into the hills. Yates found Beatrice standing steady beside her shooting position, the rifle still gripped in her hands, her face pale but composed. You saved us, he said simply, dismounting beside her. I couldn't let them hurt you, she replied, her voice steady despite the trembling of her hands. I've never shot a man before. Yates gently took the rifle, setting it aside before gathering her into his arms. The embrace was pure instinct, comfort offered and accepted without hesitation. You did what was necessary, he murmured against her hair. That's the frontier's harshest lesson. She pulled back slightly to look at him. Is that why you've kept everyone at a distance? Because necessity demanded it. The perception in her question pierced his carefully maintained defenses. My parents, my brother, my best friend, all dead because I couldn't protect them. The frontier takes everything eventually. Not everything, she countered, her hand coming to rest against his cheek. Not if we fight for what matters. Not if we build something stronger than our fears. In that moment, with the clarity that follows mortal danger, Yates recognized the truth. His isolation hadn't been protection. It had been a slow death of its own. Beatrice Anderson, with her books and her dreams and her quiet courage, had shown him a different path. I've been a fool, he admitted, thinking loneliness was safer than loss. We're all fools sometimes, she smiled slightly. I thought no one would ever see beyond Belle to notice me. I noticed from the first moment, he confessed. Your mind, your purpose, your heart, everything that matters. As they rode back to Hollow Creek side by side, something fundamental had shifted. The town that had once represented temporary shelter now held the promise of home. News of the confrontation raced ahead of them. By the time they reached town, a crowd had gathered, Thomas Anderson at the forefront. Belinda pushed through, her perfect features arranged in a mask of concern, until she saw Beatrice riding alongside Yates, their easy companionship evident to all. Father said you'd gone to warn Mr. Armstrong. We've been frantic with worry, she exclaimed, though her eyes were fixed on Yates. Your sister did more than warn us, Yates replied, helping Beatrice dismount. She saved lives today with her courage and her marksmanship. The murmurs of the crowd reflected surprise and newfound respect. Beatrice, typically self-effacing, stood tall under Yates's proud gaze. It seems my little sister has hidden talents, Belinda remarked, a brittle edge to her voice. How fortunate for you, Mr. Armstrong. That evening, after the excitement had settled, Yates found himself on the Anderson veranda with Thomas. The older man puffed contentedly on his pipe, watching as Beatrice showed the town children constellations in the early evening sky. She's something special, my bee, Thomas observed. Always has been, though most can't see past Belle's face to notice. I noticed, Yates said quietly. Thomas studied him. Yes, you did. Question is, what do you intend to do about it? With your permission, sir, I'd like to court your daughter properly. The older man's eyebrows rose. Which daughter would that be? Yates met his gaze steadily. The one who shows children stars and builds schools in the wilderness. The one who rides out to face danger rather than waiting for rescue. The one who sees me clearly and makes me want to be worthy of her vision. Thomas's weathered face broke into a broad smile. About time somebody recognized what was right in front of them. You have my blessing, son. From the garden, Belinda observed the exchange with mounting understanding and resentment. When Beatrice returned to the house, she intercepted her sister in the hallway. It seems congratulations are in order, Belinda said, her voice tight, with suppressed emotion. You've managed to secure the attention of the most eligible man in the county. Beatrice sighed. Belle, this isn't a competition, isn't it? My entire life, I've been the beautiful one, the one men notice, while you were the smart one, the sensible one. Now you've taken that too. I haven't taken anything, Beatrice replied gently. Yates and I, we understand each other. It's not about beauty or even cleverness. It's about finding someone who sees the world as you do. Belinda's perfect features crumpled slightly. Every eligible man in 3 counties has courted me, yet the one I actually wanted chooses my plain sister instead. Do you have any idea how that feels? For the first time, Beatrice glimpsed the insecurity beneath her sister's perfect exterior. Perhaps you wanted him because he didn't want you. Have you considered that? The observation landed with unexpected force. Belinda blinked rapidly, composure slipping. I don't know who I am if I'm not the beautiful one everyone desires. You're my sister, Beatrice said simply. You're intelligent and determined and capable of far more than being someone's ornament. Maybe it's time you discovered that for yourself. The sisters' relationship had never been simple, but in that moment of raw honesty, something shifted between them. Not resolution, but recognition, the first step toward a new understanding. 2 days later, Yates met Beatrice at the newly completed schoolhouse library. Shelves lined the walls, ready for the books she'd ordered from back east. Sunlight streamed through windows, illuminating the simple, functional space that represented so much of what he admired about her. Practical beauty with profound purpose. It's perfect, she breathed, turning slowly to take it all in. Better than I imagined. There's a dedication plaque coming, he told her. Something about knowledge being the foundation of civilization. She smiled, that slightly crooked smile that had become precious to him. Father's idea? Mine, actually. Yates took her hand, drawing her to face him. You've changed everything, Beatrice Anderson. How I see this place, how I see the future. And how do you see the future now? She asked, her brown eyes searching his. Not alone, he said simply. Not anymore. He withdrew a small box from his pocket. I bought this in Denver last month, before I even understood why. Opening it revealed a simple gold band set with a small sapphire. It reminded me of the night sky we talked about. Beatrice's breath caught. Yates, I've spent years believing the frontier only takes. That attachment means inevitable loss. You showed me it can also give, if we're brave enough to build something worth fighting for. He knelt before her, the gesture humble yet certain. Beatrice Anderson, will you marry me? Not just as my wife, but as my partner in whatever we choose to build together. Tears glistened in her eyes. People will say you chose the wrong sister. People are fools, he replied, rising to cup her face in his hands. I chose the woman who saw beyond my defenses, who challenges my mind and touches my heart. I chose you, Beatrice. I will always choose you. Yes, she whispered, closing the distance between them. Yes, I will marry you. Their first kiss, there among the empty bookshelves waiting to be filled, sealed a promise bigger than either had dared imagine before finding each other. Not just of love, but of purpose shared and future built together. Hollow Creek buzzed with the news. Some expressed surprise that handsome Yates Armstrong had chosen the plain schoolteacher over her beautiful sister, but those who knew them best understood. Thomas Anderson beamed with approval, while Belinda maintained a carefully composed acceptance, her own future suddenly uncertain in ways both frightening and potentially liberating. On a crisp October morning in 1879, Yates Armstrong married Beatrice Anderson in the schoolhouse they had saved together. She wore a simple blue dress with wildflowers in her chestnut hair. He wore his best suit with the silver bolo tie she had given him. Their vows, written together, spoke not only of love but of partnership, of building something meaningful in a harsh land that demanded courage and vision. Fletcher gifted them the foreman's cabin at Broken Spur, with the promise that Yates would one day inherit part ownership of the ranch. Beatrice continued teaching, dividing her time between the schoolhouse and their growing home, refusing to choose between her calling and her marriage. In the years that followed, their partnership flourished. Under their combined influence, Broken Spur expanded, the school gained regional recognition for its innovative curriculum, and their home became a gathering place for travelers, students, and neighbors alike. When their first child arrived 2 years later, a daughter with her mother's intelligent eyes and her father's quiet determination, they named her Hope, a testament to what they had found in each other. Belinda eventually married a railroad executive and moved east, finding her own purpose in Boston society and maintaining a complex but genuine relationship with her sister through letters and occasional visits. On their 5th anniversary, Yates and Beatrice sat on their porch watching the sunset, their daughter asleep inside, the sounds of the ranch settling for the night around them. Do you ever regret it? Beatrice asked, her head resting against his shoulder. Choosing the plain schoolteacher instead of the belle of the county. Yates turned to study the woman who had transformed his life, her face now familiar as his own heartbeat, the slight gap in her front teeth that appeared when she smiled, the intelligence that animated her features, the strength and purpose that had never dimmed. I didn't choose the plain anything, he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I chose the most beautiful woman I've ever known. The one who showed me that real beauty isn't what others see, but what we build together. As stars appeared in the darkening sky, the same stars that had first drawn them together, they sat in the comfortable silence of two people who had found in each other not just love, but home.